Okay, so last episode there were quite a few FOs, and somewhere I decided that allowed me to go and cast on whatever I wanted. So again, this podcast will contain quite a few new whips, but we will start with the finished objects first. Hello and welcome back. My name is Angela and this is the Angela Makes podcast. I bring you this podcast from just outside Belfast in Northern Ireland, and this is episode 11. So today I am going to go through finished objects. There are 2, and then a number of whips, which there are quite a few because I have cast on without caring. And there is one acquisition at the end. So let's get started. My finished objects. First finished object I'm wearing, and I'm feeling the coolness today again, so I have paired it with my Sophie Scarf, which I finished ages ago. This Sophie Scarf was done in a Sostran Grain yarn. I really like it, but it has stretched. The stitches are stretching, but anyway, I really like that it's cream and that it matches most things, and the Sophie Scarf is an absolutely beautiful pattern. I think it's one of those really useful scarves to have where you're just pulling on over items when you're running out the door and it's still quite cold. I might also do one in cotton for the summer. But my first finished object is my Staffin Vest. So this is the Staffin Vest by Rebecca Clow of the Crayabea, and I will put in some footage of me wearing it and standing up. So I started this, I believe, just before I recorded the last podcast, and I finished it about a week and a half ago, and I have been wearing it quite a bit. So this yarn is the Sirdar Haworth tweed. It's a double knitting yarn, 50 grams, and I had 4 balls of this, so I was using up in my stash, as I'd said the last time. I had finished my Stockholm slipover, and I really liked the Stockholm slipover and wanted to have a look at a few more similar slipovers. This one I really liked because of all of the texture in it. So I decided, as I say, I had 4 balls of this in my stash and I wanted to have a go. Plus I really like this blue. So it is there's 2 bits of this, so I need both. This is the Hockney blue, and I do believe that it is still for sale. It is 50% merino wool and 50% nylon. The texture knitting with it wasn't great. It felt almost oily, like there was still a lot of oil on the yarn. But when I washed it, it's beautiful. I really like it. And again, for the price of this, I got this out of Hobbycraft, and I think the 4 balls were £18, maybe £16. So it really isn't expensive, but I have something that is unique to me and I really like the fit of it. So what is the yardage? 165 meters per 50 grams, and I, as I say, have 21 grams left. So what I did do was to do it quite a bit longer, as you'll see in the footage that I showed. The repeat should finish, I'll maybe stand up and show you. The repeat should finish here. Here. So I did a whole rib section and the wee buttons, were they Dorset buttons or some sort of buttons, and then I did a slightly longer rib as well than was suggested in the pattern. So I did quite a bit extra. I also did less ribbing here and a little less ribbing in the arms. I used the Annika Strick cast off again on the sleeves and on the neck and on the ribbing at the edging, and I'm really liking how that finishes off a garment. You can see the tweed through this yarn, which is really nice, and overall I like the garment. As I say, I do prefer it that bit longer. I wouldn't have been comfortable with it shorter, but yeah. So the Rebecca Clo, okay, so Rebecca has 16 stitches for 26 rows, over 4 inches, and that's in the textured stitch pattern. Whenever I did the gauge swatch, I did a gauge for each of the three, there's 3 different textures, and I did a gauge for each of the 3 textures. She suggests a 5mm needle. So what I did was I used the 5mm needle. I did get the 16 stitches for 26 rows, which is, it's kind of unusual. I struggle with a lot of patterns and a lot of gauge, and with Rebecca's, I think I've said this before, but I'm not sure. There's times I need to go up a needle, and there's times I need to go down a needle, and there's times I can use the needle that is suggested. So I can never, unlike petite knit, if I knit those patterns, I pretty much know that I can knit with the needle that she suggests for every single pattern. But that's not necessarily the case for this one. So this one I was okay, it was completely on gauge. If anything, I think I was maybe 16.5 stitches. But again, that was okay. I still have plenty of room, and I like the gauge, or the positive ease on this. I did knit size 4, and the size 4 will have given me about 4.5 inches of positive ease. So as I say, really like the pattern, would really recommend it. You start by knitting the back, and then you knit each of the fronts, and then you join. But it's really quite simple to follow. One of the only things with this pattern actually was the picking up of the neck and the picking up of the arms. So it told you to pick up, say, 2 in every 3 stitches. That's not what it was. I'm not giving away the pattern details. So there wasn't then a total stitch count, so it could be a little bit more difficult. Say this was the first top that you had decided to knit. You could wing it, which will probably work, but you wouldn't be 100% sure that you had picked up. So I think it would be good to have an idea of the recommended number of stitches, and that you could be 2, 3, 4 either way. But as I say, I know that you know if you've picked up too many, you'll get it all bunching. If you've picked up too few, it's going to stretch. But at the same time, I think in terms of a pattern, just to be aware, that's one of the things that I noticed. So for the pick up on the arms and the pick up on the neck, it tells you how many stitches to pick up per stitches that you have. But remember, when you're picking up here, you're also picking up not just stitches, but you're picking up at the edges of rows. So as I say, it is just worth noting. And I know that that will all depend on your row gauge and everything else, but it didn't stop me from knitting it. It wouldn't stop me necessarily from trying it again, but just that's one of the things that I noticed when I was knitting the pattern. So that's my Staffin Vest, and as I said at the start, I have one other finished object, and it's a pair of socks. So as you know, I have been working on the Colourwork Cuff Club, and Summerlee brought out a new pattern more recently there, and it was the Comfort Core socks, and I couldn't help but knit them. So I'm also following along with Summer's videos, and she's bringing out really great videos on a weekly or 2-weekly basis. So this one, she'd said she would really like a trainer sock, so she had done the texture so that it fitted more snugly around your foot, but she'd also done a little bit of texture here on the sock as well. There are 3 different versions which I will put up. She does one which is I think it's a stocking stitch leg, but there's a stripe. and then the other one is a ribbed leg, and again she has a stripe in that, and then she has the shorty sock. So this is the shorty sock. I have done this in, I think this is Giddy Aunt yarn, sweater grey or school sweater or something like that, and then the Coop Knits sock shea in Zenon for the toe and the heel. It is the standard heel flap and gusset, standard toe, and there's not much else to say. I have two of them. I have blocked the sock, so it is also sitting really nicely. Blocking does make such a difference to how they sit, and again Summer has a video where she talks about the blocking process, because she says there was quite a few people asking her, how do you get your socks to sit when they're not on a blocker? And yeah, the power of blocking. Now when I block mine, I literally put them in a sink with some lukewarm water. There's no wool wash, I don't put anything else in them. I leave them for 15 minutes to half an hour, and I rinse them out and put them on, I put them on these blockers. So yeah, as I say, really liking that pattern, and will definitely do it again. The yarn, so this was a 50-gram ball, and I still have quite a bit left, so that'll do me for one of the colourwork cuff clubs, and I've loads of this anyway. You've seen it in a couple of projects. So they're all of my whips. They're all of my FOs. So now if we move on to whips, and as I said, there are quite a few. I will start with one that you've already seen, and it is the NYX Sweater by Rebecca Clow again. So I had started this, I think if I look back, in October possibly. So I'm not going to spend a huge amount of time on this, except to say that, so I'm doing the NYX Sweater with the colourwork at the top only. I'm not doing the full colourwork, so it's only the yoke. Hold on till I see. And I do now have it finished. So that's the colourwork finished. And as you will see, I have split for sleeves. I have just literally 2 rows done, but I've split for sleeves, and I have tried this on because I panicked. My row gauge is off, and it's off by quite a few rows. Now, if you remember, I had steam blocked the top. I'll go into the yarn first. This yarn is the Stylecraft Grace. It always blows out in colour. It's a darker. This one is called Forest. It is shade 2154. It is 85% premium acrylic, 10% mohair, 5% wool, and 295 meters per 100 grams. It is a cool tumble dry, and it can go in the machine, which is another, I like being able to put my jumpers or sweaters into the machine. And this was £5.30 per ball. So the Forest, the Forest, and the other colour is this one. That's maybe not too bad of a colour. It is bright, and it is called Long Grass. And again, it's exactly the same. It's the Stylecraft Grace. So, as I said, because it's 85% acrylic, I had blocked the top. So I haven't blocked this bit, but my row gauge didn't change. It nicely settled. It probably gave me a little bit more in terms of the stitch gauge, but not the row gauge. So what I worried about was the depth of the yoke. Now I have tried it on. This is not right up under my arm at all, because I was just about to pull it out, and I thought, no, I've got too far, all of that beautiful colour work, and I do really like this. I think it will be a really, really lovely sweater when I'm finished. So I'm going to keep going. I'm going to try and get to about maybe 4 or 5 inches of body and then try it on again, because I like it when it's slightly farther down and I can really tell under my arms and it's not pulling up with your chest. So the you have short rows after the colour work at the back, so you don't have the gap at the top. So you do some colour work here, or not colour work, you do some short rows there to raise the back of it. So they're all done. And as I say, then I'm just knitting round and round. So I will continue to do that. And that is what I have left of the ball of the contrast colour. What I'm going to do though, I think when I get to the bottom, I'm going to do the 1x1 stripes along the bottom before I go into the ribbing, and I'm going to do the same on the cuffs just to give a little bit of added extra and to keep that bright yellow going through the jumper. So that's my plan. As I said, I'll not do the edging on that top bit, so I'll not do this rounded bit, but I think I will do the 1x1 just before going into the, I haven't decided how much of it to do, but I can measure this and then decide, and then I'll do the ribbing. The ribbing on this is 1x1, and that's about all I have on that one. So as I say, that one I will continue to work on. My row gauge is a little bit off, but I think the yoke will be okay, and then sure, the sleeves and the body I can work out from there. So that is the NYX Sweater by Rebecca Clow. So I'd already that one cast on. I think I've just, the colour work was taking quite a while. It wasn't overly complicated at all, but I felt as the rows get longer, it seems to just take longer and longer and longer, and I was struggling a little bit with it. So that's, I was lifting other projects and going back and forward, and that's what I enjoy doing. I'll maybe do half an hour of that and then I'll set it away and I'll go and I'll pick up another project. So the next project that I have been working on is a Lady Violet sweater. So the Lady Violet sweater is by Twinset and Pearl. You're not going to be able to see this very well because it's in dark yarn. So I'll put a picture of the Lady Violet sweater so that you can see the beautiful, there's lace detail in the raglan increases. And I tried this on the other night, and I think you will be able to see the lace detail, but I just love this colour. So I have a good couple of inches after the split. So again, this one is just round and round, but the yoke itself only took a couple of evenings. I really, really enjoyed this particular one. And it wasn't just a plain raglan. I think because that lace was there and it was breaking it up, it felt, even though the rows were getting longer, exactly the same as the NYX. Well, this gauge is a little bit more open, but the same as the NYX, the stitches were getting more and more and more, but this made it feel like it was easier and I wasn't switching yarn. So, as I say, beautiful colour. I'm really, really loving the colours in this, and that is showing up quite well on the camera. So these colours are old Giddy Aunt yarns. So when they were changing over to Inspiring hand-dyed yarns, I treated myself to some of their sale at that time. So this is their Blackcurrant Jam. Oh. So their Blackcurrant Jam, and that colour is coming up quite nicely. It is dark, but there's a beautiful blackcurrant colour off it. Really, really rich, really lovely tone. And then this is, I think it's their mohair silk. And again, just some stunning colours, and really to me that is the blackberry jam in it, although they may correct me, but I love these two together. So I have 2 balls of each, except I've lost where I've put the other ones. So this is what I'm down to, and I am searching my stash to try and find the other 2 because I definitely have them. So watch this space to see if this jumper gets finished. I was looking on Inspiring hand-dyed yarns, they still do the blackcurrant jam. So they still have this colourway if anyone likes it in their new inspiring hand-dyed yarns. I haven't seen the Ursula, but they have some beautiful colours that would match. In fact, I think they have the blackcurrant jam in either Suri silk or the mohair silk. But I love their yarn. This is the first time I've treated myself to hand-dyed mohair. I typically buy the Drops Kid Silk, as you've known. So this was a treat to myself, and knowing that Giddy Ant Yarn was renaming. So as I say, I've decided to do the Lady Violet, really loving it. My plan is I want it as long as I can get it. So my plan is to keep knitting the body until it is as long as I want, because I don't mind short sleeves. So I don't mind putting on ribbing even just at this stage. I think I should have plenty to get, my arms aren't overly long, and I think I should have plenty to have the full length sleeves, but just in case, I'm going to continue doing the body so that it is definitely the length that I want, and then if I have short sleeves, that's perfectly fine. This will be a lovely summer top. We don't get really warm summers here, and this will be plenty. Now, there's a couple of things with this. So in this one, okay, so the gauge is 15 stitches by 22 rows. I do have the 22 rows, but mine is 17-18 stitches. They suggest a 6mm needle. I have mine on a 5mm needle, and I was more than happy with the openness. So it still is, but I did not want to go any more open than that. So I decided that I would do the second size. So the first size in this would have given me about 6 inches of positive ease, and they suggest 2 to 10 inches. So that would have been if I had stuck to the 15 stitches per 4 inches. But I decided to go up to the second size, which is 50 inches. But if my calculations are right, that should give me about 44, 45 on an 17, 18 stitch gauge. I have tried it on and I love the fit at the minute. And again, it's a nice length under my arm, and it will be a stunning sweater. So that's the only thing that I've changed at the minute, just because I didn't want to do the I didn't want to go up to a 6mm needle. Now that's also why I'm slightly concerned about the yarn and the possibility of doing short sleeves, but the short sleeves do not bother me at all, and I would be more than happy to leave them as short sleeves, and as I say, use it as more of a summer piece. So that's my Lady Violet, stored in one of my bags, and fully recommend the pattern. Really easy to follow, really quick to knit because of the gauge, and it's just really enjoyable, and especially now that I'm rounding the round, but as you know, that will slow me down and I'll need to jump between patterns. So then what have I done? Then the other thing that I did, the Knit Pearl Girl. I said I wasn't buying any more patterns. Don't believe anything I say. The Knit Pearl Girl brought out the Luz Sweater. I had seen it in a podcast, and I can't remember what the podcast was. I'll link the podcast down below because it was really lovely. And she took you through, she test knit the Luz, and she took you through the test knit process. And it made me really love the sweater even more. So I decided to give it a go. I haven't a huge amount done on this, but it's all twisted on me. That is the stitch pattern, and it's a number of slip stitches, but I'll put a picture up. There is also quite a nice broad raglan in it. I'm not sure how, yeah. So there's a nice broad raglan, and So you start by knitting the back, and that's your short rows rather than adding in short rows. And I have just joined in the round, and we'll continue to do the rest of the raglan increases. But again, so detailed, the pattern. I really like detail. As much as I like Twin Satin Pearls pattern, really easy to follow. You don't need any more detail in a more or less straight raglan. But this one just gives you that extra little bit of hand holding, extra little bit of explanation as to why you're doing certain things. And I really, really like it. So as I say, I haven't started much, but what I have started, I have really, really enjoyed. So it is, I am knitting it in Drops Nord. This was on sale on Wool Warehouse. It is colour 20, which is called Blush on their website. It is 170 meters to 50 grams. It is 45% alpaca, 30% polyamide, and 25% wool. And I am not holding it with anything. The Knit Pearl Girl suggests a DK. So at 170, Wool Warehouse lists this as a 4-ply. But at 170 for 50 grams, it's a very light DK, I would like to say. Sophie suggests 22 stitches to 26 rows, which is what I'm getting. She says to use 4mm needles. I'm using 3.75, so I had to go down to 3.75 to get that gauge. And that, well, if I had added the mohair, I might have gone to 4mm. But I wanted to leave it without the mohair, and I'm happy with how it's coming together. So that's the Drops Nord in Blush, 170 meters to 50 grams. And I'm really enjoying it so far. I don't think there's anything else I can say. I'll probably take you through a few bits more in the pattern as I get further down. But the bit that I'm doing at the minute is really enjoyable. It's every third row is a slip stitch row and the rest are knits. So again, it's relatively straightforward, but still enough to break just plain stocking stitch. So yeah, absolutely loving that pattern. It's £7 sterling at the minute, and absolutely loving seeing the projects that are up there. And I've just looked the podcast up so that we have it. It's What Hannah Knits. And as I say, she has a knitting project vlog which takes you through the Luz Sweater. And it was her first test knit. So again, it's really good to hear from someone who has experienced their first test knit. So that was another cast on. And as I mentioned in my January podcast, I was going to try not to be influenced, but that didn't last very long. I don't even think we got to February. So the other projects that I have are socks. So in the last podcast, I had literally just started the Wigget Socks by Knit Sip Happy or Nancy Wheeler. And I now have one of those socks complete. And I'm really, really liking the colour on this. And the texture. I'm really liking the texture on this. You've this beautiful detailing running the whole way down. The gusset heel, Nancy's rounded toe. So a couple of things. On the side of the heel, Nancy has a bit of garter stitch. It is nice. I didn't like picking up at the side. So whenever you do a slip stitch every other row, I find that really easy to pick up your stitches for the gusset. It's tidy, I've no holes. but I just don't think I'll do it again. I think I really like the gusset, heel flap and gusset as a heel. And I will continue to use that, but I don't know that I would do the garter stitch, but that is completely personal. The instructions were fine, really easy to follow, told you what to pick up and all the rest of it, but I just prefer. And then for the rounded toe, for me, it didn't give me anything extra. I typically do a standard toe, and for my foot, that's all I need. And I know that everyone's different, so again, I will probably just stick with the normal toe, but I was really interested to try this, and I'm so glad that I did. It does give you more of a roundness, but it does, as I say, it doesn't really give me anything extra over the socks that I typically knit. And I know the other one off by heart. I don't need to look at a pattern. So I'm being lazy. So yeah, these are the Wigget Socks by Nancy Wheeler. Absolutely beautiful texture. I have shortened the leg on these. I think these are maybe 11 centimeters rather than what I normally have, 10-ish. But that's okay, and I do really like them. This particular yarn was a wildflower yarn, and it was in their Myth and Magic Club, and it was last March, so I got it a year ago, and this was the Goblins one, and this is the sock yarn. So we had 100 grams of the beautiful pinks and purples, and then I had a 20-gram mini of the purple, which again is just such a gorgeous colour. I love this mini. So that was the sock yarn for that one. And then I was watching Twin Set and Pearl, as I do on a very regular basis, and they have announced that from the 1st of March they are doing a sock cal, a botanical sock cal. So Rachel had designed socks for botanical yarn for 2 years, and you pick one of those patterns to knit and you join in the cal. The cal is on Ravelry. Again, I'll link their podcast below where they talk about it and they have all of the information. I had a couple of patterns already. So I chose to do the Picotee Socks. And it has this lovely picot edge. And then there's a really nice pattern, which again is really memorizable. That's maybe not a word. That's maybe just one of my words. Memorable. And heel flap and gusset again, which is the heel that's in the sock, not that I have put it in. And yeah, again, this is just whenever I'm waiting in the car for my daughter, either coming out of school or at one of her wee classes that she goes to. And it's lovely. I say, hopefully that with the darker yarn it's maybe not coming up as nicely, but it is a really beautiful detail. So this yarn is again a Giddy Aunt yarn. I think this one was called Tickle Fight. It was one of their Christmas yarns, but I don't really see it as necessarily completely Christmas. And it is beautiful. Stunning colours in it. So I will do that. The cal runs from 1st of March through to the end of May, and the only stipulation is that you knit I think it's at least one sock, but between now and May you should get both socks done, and especially if you pick the Picotee and their shorties, and they are their shorty socks. So loving that design. I had already knit it in the past for my daughter, and she's still wearing them. She absolutely loves, especially the wee picot edge on the cuff. It's really pretty, and again really easy to do. Rachel has the instructions in there for you to follow, and they're really easy to follow. And the last pair of socks that I did was these gorgeous ones. Aren't they lovely? So these are the Rusty Socks by Woolen Knots. And Woolen Knots is based here in Northern Ireland. It's Anne Tucker, and I just absolutely love the detail. Now, for any eagle-eyed knitters, I've done this wrong. So you see the way we have the cross here? This should also have been a cross or an X, but I forgot to move the middle. I just followed what I'd done the row before. So when I did that one, I decided that I would just do it again and make it a pattern. So I haven't got the heel in this yet. I have my line to put in an afterthought heel because I'm not sure that I have enough yarn. I have plenty of the off-white, and I think this is the rust, and these are both drops Fable. So my intention is to knit the second sock, and then if I need to, I'll do the heel in this colour, and that doesn't bother me. So if I get the rest of the other sock done and I have enough of this left, then I'll do the heel in the rust, and if not, I'll just put the cream in, and it'll look absolutely beautiful. So this went off the needles so quickly because you want to get to the next bit and you want to try the next bit of the pattern. I know that some people find colour work on such small needles difficult, but this is where I absolutely love my 9-inch circulars, because if I use magic loop, I find that I really struggle to carry the colours around whenever you're changing needle. But if you use the 9-inch circulars, I just find that you keep going, and that there's no break, and you really, in this pattern actually, you don't even have, where do we see? Because of the way that it's set up, you really don't have too much of a break where it's switching, and you definitely don't have one on the other side. And I've no laddering or anything else, so I love my 9-inch circulars whenever I am doing colour work. Now, what Anne suggests is that you go up a needle size. So if you typically knit a 64 stitch sock, which is what I do, she suggests that you do a 70. So the pattern is for sizes up, which did throw me a little bit, but it's perfect, and you do knit that little bit tighter. So she suggests knitting in 2.75. I did mine in 2.5 and went up to the 70 stitch sock. So I'm happy with the tension and happy with the way these are working out. They are gorgeous. So they are the Rusty Socks by Woolen Knots, or Anne Tucker, who is, as I say, from here in Northern Ireland. So I love supporting local designers and local yarn dyers. So the last whip that I want to talk about is one that I have only started. So Jo of Twin Set and Pearl put out a test pattern last week, which I had to apply for. And it was for the Alexander shawl. So this shawl is going to come in 3 different sizes: small, medium and large. The small and the medium can be achieved with 100 grams each of 2 colours, and I think I'll find out as the test knit goes, but 150 grams of each colour of 2 colours for the large size. I am doing the medium, and this is mine so far, and I am so loving it. Isn't that gorgeous? And when I see it on camera, it looks really complicated, and it's really not. It's knitting and purling. And you're getting this beautiful, and then the back looks exactly the same, just reversed. So where this one, on the other side, it looks like this. And it's beautiful. I love it. So I am doing this in a Woolen Adventures, again, yarn dyers from Northern Ireland. Now they're not dyeing yarn at the minute, but they have a little bit on their Etsy store. This particular one, so Woolly Adventures from here in Northern Ireland, this is their super sock. It is 75% merino, 25% nylon, 425 meters for 100 grams, and this colorway is called Cappuccino. And I absolutely love coffee, and this colour is just beautiful. Actually matches my nails. And then the other colourway is this, which is a cashmere. So this was the one, and I couldn't find the ball band for this. This was the yarn that I used for the fingerless mittens that I knit for going to Disneyland. And this I do now remember I ordered from AliExpress. And I know that there will be many views and opinions as to whether that's right or wrong, but I decided to try it because cashmere is so expensive, and I am loving it. The mittens have pilled a bit, but this is so soft. Now you do have to hold it. I think this is an anti-pilling, so I am holding it with this, but it as you'll see, the colour is stunning. So this particular one is 98% cashmere, anti-pilling fibre, 2%, 50 grams, but it doesn't give me how many meters per 50 grams. But it is knitting up to 4-ply, and I have tried to do the test to see how many wraps I'm getting per inch, and again it's coming up to 4-ply for me if I'm doing it right, which may not be happening. But if you look at, I mean, there is no real difference in the way that this is coming together. Both look very similar, so to me 420 maybe 480, 490, but yeah, absolutely loving how this is coming together, and there's some lovely colours have been chosen in the test knit, so keep an eye on this because there are going to be some beautiful variations, and this is going to make a beautiful shawl. So I know whenever I'm on section 2 at the minute, when I get to section 3 everything will slow down a little bit, but absolutely gorgeous. So that's the Twin Satin Pearl Alexander shawl, and I'm currently doing the test knit for that, which is running until the 11th of April, depending on each of the testers. So yeah, we will see how that goes along. It should be out for Easter, and see how it goes. So that is all of my finished objects, all of my whips, and then I said I had one acquisition to show, and it is based on wanting to knit another Stockholm slipover. And I had said whenever I finished it that I wasn't 100% happy about the combination of yarn. I do struggle a little bit with Drops Kid Silk. I find it a little bit scratchy, and I'm trying to find something else within a price range that doesn't give me that scratchiness and harshness. So I went for the Drops Nord again. As I say, it was on sale, so 170 meters per 50 grams. This colorway is 23, and that is the caramel color. My lighting is starting to go here, but I think that's coming up okay. And then, as you have probably seen in quite a few podcasts, Wool Warehouse have come out with their range of yarnsmiths, and they have just recently released their Kid Mohair Silk, which is 74% Kid Mohair, 26% silk, and 212 meters per 25 grams, which is very similar to, if not exactly the same meterage as Drops Kid Silk. It does feel softer than Drops Kid Silk, I have to say. and I've got this colourway. So together, this is going to make a beautiful combination. This is shade 3074. I'm not sure if they have colours against that. I will check as I'm chatting through. So my intention with that is to do the Stockholm slipover. I want another colour. I'm wearing these quite a bit, so I wanted more than two so that I can swap them in and out. Where's the kid silk? And at the minute it's £4.95 for the 25 grams. They are going to be putting it up to £7.60. So again, this is where I'm hoping that it is softer than the Drops Kid Silk. But if they do, and they do tend to reduce the yarn smiths periodically throughout the year. So if this one comes down, then maybe that's your chance to grab it. So this particular colourway is Rust. So the Rust and the Caramel together was what I had chosen, but there are some really, really pretty colours, and quite a few colours actually in that list. Yeah, 40 shades. So I'll let you know how I get on with that. It's the Yarnsmiths Kid Mohair Silk Drops Nord, which you should all have seen before. And both of those were on sale, as I say, £4.95 for the Drops Kid Silk, and the Drops Nord was down to £1.70, I think, £1.70 per ball. So that's all I have. I am going to continue working, if I can find the yarn, on my Lady Violet. I will continue working in the round on the NYX. I will obviously be working on that test knit to make sure that it's finished in time for Joe of Twin Set and Pearl. And I always have a pair of socks so that I can take it in the car and have something to knit on while I wait. So I hope that you're all well. I hope that you're all enjoying your crafting, whatever crafting that you're doing. If there are any questions or if I've forgotten any information, ask me down below. So until the next time, enjoy your crafting. Bye!